Like I said, you remember the time where it was literally...
I still remember, like, we were coming home from karate or something, and he was going to pick up burgers, and I wanted a plain cheeseburger, and that was too much trouble.
It's like, that's
He's
not...
like, you're all getting regular burgers. I'm not going to order different burgers. And it's like, is it that hard to order plain burgers for kids?
It is.
Apparently it was.
It is very, very hard for my father.
I think I cried. I was like scraping off the onion peppers. Like, I don't want this.
I don't want to welcome to my world, dude. It's like, you kind of just like, whatever.
Be hungry.
I'm like, Daddy, this is too salty. Yeah? Cool. Have a nice day. Like, just... Hello, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations About Culture, the podcast where myself and a few of my friends get together and discuss nerdy things. Just a reminder, if you like what you're listening to, please subscribe to Seriously Pointless Conversations YouTube channel, or you can find us on your favorite podcasting apps. Thank you for your support. Without you, none of this would be possible. Thanks for coming by. Now let's get into the episode. Hi, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations About Culture, your Seriously Pointless podcast about all your nerdy and geek things across time and your sadly father-absent timelines, James.
Yes, and contrary to what that intro might have suggested, this is about a JRPG and not a Disney movie.
That's true, and I'm sure just any...
or Miyazaki movies in general. I mean, there's actually a surprising amount of things we talk about on this podcast.
I know, right?
Fathers.
I know. I did. You know what? I noticed that the other day with Pony. This is a random side tangent, but he's just like the dad just doesn't show up until the very, very end. Yeah. He's just on a boat all the time, and I'm just like, wow.
At least he did show up. I mean, that is something.
True.
And as a side note, anyone who listens to this clearly must like tangents, because that's like 90% of our show.
What are you talking about? We are sharp and focused all the time. So I know beside that random obscure references, today, guys, we are going to be talking about the titular and just amazing RPG from the SNES series or SNES era, Earthbound. So, James, before we get going into the big thing, where did you first run into Earthbound? Did you ever play before?
Like a lot of people, I first realized Earthbound was a thing whenever Ness appeared as a character in Smash Bros.
Yep.
Because despite having a lot of Western themes in it, the RPG did kind of fall flat in the West.
Very much.
It had this subversive marketing campaign, which is hilarious and amazing now looking back on it, but it just didn't hit right.
If you guys...
and it was competing with the much, much more popular Super Mario RPG.
Oh my god, yeah. So if you guys like some weird, Nintendo history type stuff, go back and look at some of the ad campaigns that they have. I'm sure. I looked up a little bit, filmed some online. And you aren't kidding. It's just like really bizarre, stuff that they did. I have to look it up again, but I just remember thinking, who the hell thought this was a good idea? I'm like, I thought it was hilarious at the time when I was looking at it, but I can't remember. But it's a lie for me. But so yeah, I know I kind of had the same situation as you did. They added him as a character. Was it in the very first Smash Bros? Mm-hmm. He's in the very, very first Smash Bros. And that's where I found him.
PK Fire.
Exactly. You're like PK Thunder, and you're just like,
who is this kid with the baseball bat?
I'm like, who? What? I'm like, is this a home run baseball game from the Nintendo era or in SNES era that I have no idea about? No, he was a straight up RPG character from a very well beloved game from Japan. That actually had a bit of a cult following here in the U.S. at the time.
Yeah, and not only was Earthbound a big game, but it was actually a sequel to a big game.
I know, right? And so you're just like, what? There's a prequel to this thing? You're like, this is bizarre. So it was really interesting to find that out and kind of dig down into it, like you said. And I did play this once when I was in college, played it all the way through. And I'm going to be honest with you, it is a very long RPG, like most of our SNES.
It's a big one. It's like a Final Fantasy-sized RPG if you're familiar with some of the old Super Nintendo RPGs.
So here's some of the this is some of the ad campaigns.
It says this book stinks too.
And it's the Earthbound manual. I'm gonna read the
ad is saying that the game sucks. And
not only does the game of Earthbound reek like some foul creature of the sewers, but Nintendo has made the product even more repulsive with the player's guide that comes packed with the game. Inside the book, you'll find a page of scratch and sniff cards bursting with odors from the game. The concept of smell marketing This is ridiculous.
And the funny thing is that I feel like things have come full circle because this style of marketing, I think, would do great right now.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. That'd be hilarious to see if they could make that. If you could honestly, let's be honest, if you could get it to where you would see that kind of stuff in like a web advertisement. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I actually got a physical periodical like show up in my mail. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, I think a 2.5D Earthbound with a couple modern tweaks, like some faster text dialogue and stuff.
What are you talking about, James?
Would be actually really popular right now. The humor style is great.
It's perfectly paced. What are you talking about? I don't know, but before we dive deep into what we all about the game and everything that really made it what it was and what we love about it. What have you been up to, James? I know we kind of jumped the shark a little bit on that one, but what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Gosh.
Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Because I caught you off guard.
Well, I frantically try to think of some things to make my life interesting.
What are you talking about? We have the most interesting lives in the world. We're the most interesting men in the world, James.
That is true. Except for that Jose Cuervo guy. We're number 2 and 3, though.
Dos Equis.
Dos Equis?
It's Dos Equis.
Dos Equis, whatever.
Definitely.
We're the second and third most interesting
I will tell you this right now. I will never drink Jose Cuervo, James. I would drink Dos Equis.
Real men drink Modelo.
That's true. Sorry,
Negro Modelo.
It's very much so.
It's delicious.
It's good so. But no, so in my world, I actually so I finally finished up Hogwarts Legacy, the story.
Mm-hmm.
I have not finished the game.
Yeah.
That's a big ask right there for one.
I've been doing the side quests as I go.
Yeah.
And I'm almost 30 hours in and I haven't finished the main story because I've been trying to do all the side quests as they come up and this is a lot of game.
It really is. So, and a lot of it's stuck behind kind of level caps, right? So you can get to a point in the game and beat the game, like beat the main storyline before you even get the side quest done. But if you're not hitting that level cap, it won't let you progress in there. So like I think you have to be like level 30 or so before you get some of the get to the end of at least the one I know of, the Sebastian quest.
Yeah.
You have to be at least around level 30. You can finish the game when you're like level 27.
Oh, see, I'm like 33 and I haven't finished the main story.
So, it's good, trust me, because I was 20. I got to level 27, and I was just like, I'm just gonna finish the storyline, and I'm just like, this is a little hard from where I was at. I was just like, I definitely died a few times in the final boss battle because it's not super. What's the word for him? Button mashy, but it's definitely you have to coordinate things and you have to time things a little bit more better on things like that. So it is a little bit rough. But I was playing on a hard difficulty, and I would suggest if you do want to make it a little bit easier, definitely knock it down to story because they're not going to bonk you. They don't penalize you for knocking it down to the story level difficulty, which is basically easy difficulty. They don't knock you experience wise. You get the same amount of experience if it was hard or not, and then there's no achievement for it.
Most of your experience doesn't come from combat anyway. It comes from picking up those pages and stuff.
Yes, very much so. Unless you go into the arena, which I found out. If you go do the arena and you get through all the arena challenges and fight all the enemies, you can get a ton of level ups there.
But the level cap's only 35 or something anyways.
It's 40.
Is it 40?
It's 40.
Yeah, so I've heard that you'll finish the level cap way before you finish the game. There's no need to grind for experience or anything.
Well, unless you're me and you got all the stuff done by level 30, which I've literally gotten all the side quests done. I've got all the I'll get the main quest done, which is I'm only level 30, so I was just like, I probably should have spent some more time exploring a little bit more, but I get very focused on certain things in there. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm going to try and actually get all the achievements in it, which I've heard some of them are a little bit kind of pain.
That's what I've been trying to kind of work on as I go, and that's why I've struggling to think of things that I've done because I've mostly been playing Hogwarts Legacy.
No, that's okay. No, so I did that. I actually, you'll be proud of me. I actually, I downloaded Atomic Heart, which is the new, I might lack of a better word, Russian style BioShock.
Russian BioShock, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, so I want to start playing that. Haven't got it started because I got sidetracked by another game called High Rush. Did you see that one come out on?
I saw High Rush, and that was very positively received on Zero Punctuation, so I need to try that out. I need to try that one out.
It is fluid. It is fast. It is for us that have that kind of like that ADD kind of like a little bit of adrenaline kind of like dopamine dump, it's perfect for us. You'll like it a lot.
The art style remind me of Sunset Overdrive, which I really enjoyed too.
I really enjoyed that game, yeah.
So I'm definitely, that's on my list of things to check out next.
So yeah,
because I'm going to have some dead space between Hogwarts Legacy and the new Zelda game, so I'll need something to play.
Yeah, that's true. You know, that's what I did to kind of fill that space in between those two other games. Was I actually downloaded a bunch of SNES game ROMs and some I think it was Wii ROMs. I got a Wii, and I want to play Skyward Sword and a couple other ones.
Yeah, Skyward Sword is pretty fun.
So I never played Skyward Sword. So
the HD remake on the Switch is pretty good. Mm-hmm. I don't know how HD it is compared to the original. So it's nice.
I was reading up on it, and because I was debating on getting it on the
Skyward
Switch.
Sword's a pretty big game though.
That's what they said, and they said it's not a big difference unless you're trying to like speed run it. Which in that way, they said the SD version, there's a lot more time skips, which you do. In the HD one, they don't do it as much, and I'm like, well, I don't really plan on speed running anytime soon. So.
I think they fixed the back in time glitch for the HD version.
Yeah,
which is like most of the speed run, but you're not going to do the back in time glitch anyway. So
no, I'm not. I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. So. But
the only obnoxious thing with Skyward Sword is they put a crafting system in for some reason, so you're going to spend a bunch of time trying to catch random bugs and stuff to upgrade your items.
So is that kind of where they get that in the not Twilight Princess? Did they pull that in with the new one, the Breath of the Wild? Is that where they get the crafting system?
Some of that. I mean, Skyward Sword has this whole thing where most of your shields and items and stuff can be upgraded at a blacksmith, and you have to collect these bugs and monster parts and stuff to do it. Okay. And you also can make your own potions and things. And so the bug catching net and its upgrades are like a big part of the progression system for the game. Okay. And depending on whether you like that sort of thing or not, it can be a lot of fun or kind of obnoxious.
I'm taking you found it to be a little obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit different from the standard Zelda experience. I enjoyed by finding the stuff to upgrade my items. I like that part. What I didn't enjoy is when you're getting to the end game and it's like, oh, I want to go fight the final boss. I'm going to get some potions first. But oh, wait, no. First I need to go back to the starting area and get 3 more beetles so I can make the potions. That was a little obnoxious.
I could see that.
I would rather just unlock things once and then be done with it. I don't like the having to come back and repeatedly grind mechanics. Yeah, not for a single player Zelda game, at least.
I can see that a little bit.
So. For like an MMO or something that's different, that's part of the of the process.
Not a regular action kind of RPG kind of game. So, trying to think of anything I've actually been watching. We're slowly making our way through. What was it? What's the anime you showed me? It's the one with Love
After World Domination.
Love After World Domination.
It's a fun one.
She's enjoying it a lot. It's kind of been basically Jackie's excuse to watch anime, and I showed it to her, and she got hooked immediately. So that was a very good pick on your end.
I'm glad she liked it.
I'm enjoying it. The thing that kind of like where I kind of like I'm like I don't really care that much anymore is like it is kind of hitting that one note thing after a little bit of like, oh, we have to keep our love a secret. Oh, we have to keep our love. I get it. That's the main whole point of the thing. But after a while, I'm just like, I want to see what happens if they like let everyone know about it, and that would be hilarious to see like the fallout from that. That would be great.
It's a thinly veiled plot contrivance, but there's a reason it's a 12-episode series. That's never going to get a second season.
That's why I said it's not going to get a second season, so I can kind of see why it is there. But I like that little.
I'd rather have it one and done than to try and drag it on.
Although you were fair though, her father
is the best part of the series.
He's the best part of the show.
It's great.
I just love that he puts on his spandex minion uniform just to try to prove a point to the boyfriend who is also pretending to be a minion to spend time with his daughter, and he's just like, "You will fight me," and then he just like falls over, and I'm like, "What the fuck just happened here? This is great."
It's like I learned the special falling techniques.
You have not learned to lose as well as I have yet.
It reminds me of Kung Fu Hustle.
It really does. It was pretty funny to see. I did not expect that. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. So have you had enough time to think about what you've been up to, James?
I have. Yeah. No, the thing I've been messing with lately actually is I got a Samsung TV at a dinner auction. that I didn't necessarily need. But this is what happens when you go to a gala where they give you free drinks, and the silent option is James buys something which he doesn't need. So,
darn.
So I replaced my TV upstairs with a smart Samsung TV, and I found out that the Samsung TVs support a lot more stuff than the LG TV I have downstairs does. And so I got the Xbox Game Pass app, and I got a Steam Link app, and the Luna app, and I've been messing around with streaming gaming to the TV, and actually it's pretty slick.
Told you, man.
Like,
it's gonna be
at least at my reaction speed, I know that there's some sort of Wi-Fi delay, but I don't notice it.
So it would probably be even less if you do a hardline to it even at some point. But
I need to try. I've been mostly playing with the Xbox Game Pass one, and that's been a lot of fun. Yes. Especially, I still think for something I'm going to like sit down and dump a ton of time into, I'd probably go use my PC.
Yes.
But it's nice to get to try a game for 5 or 10 minutes without having to download it first and come back later. So that's been a lot of fun.
The only
On a side note, the Luna controller that I bought thinking I would save some money is garbage, and I probably need to buy like a real Xbox or PlayStation controller.
That'll teach you.
Well,
was Luna the Amazon one?
It was the Amazon streaming service.
Yeah.
The controllers were cheap, and it's like a hybrid Wi-Fi Bluetooth controller, which on the Amazon app, it will use Wi-Fi to connect to the TV, to the controller, and to the streaming service, and so it actually performs really, really great. The Bluetooth receiver on it is bad.
Okay.
And so even sitting like 5 feet from the TV, it disconnects repeatedly. Which I feel like a good Bluetooth controller should go at least 15 feet out.
At least.
Enough for a decent sized room.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have to buy another controller, which kind of stinks.
Think about it this way.
I wasted $30.
I can think about it this way. So I have a pair of headphones that I wear to the gym, and I can literally toss my phone down next to a station that I'm going to use. So like if I'm going to go over and do squats, I take them over to the squat rack, and I'll just toss my bag down there or my stuff over there, and I go, oh crud, I forgot something. And I have to walk back to my bag where the cubby where my bag is easily 50 feet away. And it still holds up. I can still listen to my music. So it's
like even my earbuds have a better range than that.
Yeah,
and they're meant to never be more than like 2 feet from the phone they're attached to.
Yeah, really.
Like I can have my earbuds in and walk across the room and back, and they're fine.
Yeah,
like,
it's
just not acceptable. Like I said, for their intended app that they were designed for, they work fine. But as a replacement for a good quality Bluetooth controller, they are not.
No.
So I'm probably just going to order an Xbox One and.
Oh, you get an Xbox Pro controller.
I might do that.
Those are really nice. You're talking like close to like $300.
So. No, I don't want it that badly. This is a living room toy.
That's what I thought.
I don't need it that badly, but that's been fun to mess around with.
Just get yourself one of the old. You can get newer Xbox like wireless controller. You can get like a 3. I've been playing with that 360 controller. It's cabled, but I've been playing that thing for I don't know. 8 years, 9 years now. I love that thing. I clean it every once in a while because it gets
a little grody.
It gets nasty, but I'm glad that I have to come over and see it because
I've been having fun playing with that. It works really well. There is a little bit of screen tearing with the streaming service, especially when things start to get busy, but it's fine. And the Steam Link is one I need to set up and try out this week. So what it does is it actually will use your gaming PC on the same Wi-Fi network. It'll boot up and run it on your PC and then stream it wirelessly to the TV.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to try doing Hogwarts so I can see that way. I could play it on my big TV upstairs.
That would be
while
fun.
My computer downstairs runs it.
So does it take up both screens when you do that, I'm assuming? Or
I would assume so. I mean, any type of 4K gaming is going to eat up all your processing and video.
Well, I'm just curious if it's.
I don't know if you could still do something on the TV at the same time.
Yeah, because
actually, Casey, with your setup, you could still have a game guide or something open on your TV.
That's literally what I do all the time.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? But yeah, I was just curious to see kind of what it is. I know because I played around with the Game Pass streaming stuff, but I've got a hardline in my PC, and I just play it on either the big screen or I actually like these screens a lot more because they've got better resolution than that old thing, which is almost 15 years old now. So
yeah,
so but it is like you said, it is really nice. And now that even if I got a hardline in, there's like almost no tearing whatsoever unless the internet is just crapping out on me, and that's not its fault. It's not the PC's fault. It's literally Charter's fault. So I blame Charter for that. So someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I guess that's kind of about what we went up to, right?
Yeah,
Nothing
that's
else.
about it. Yeah.
I kind of want to come over and try that though, and just kind of see what it's like. So, but it'd be fun to check out. So, all right, guys. Now that we've bantered enough around in the weeds here, and it's finally to get down to earth. I guess to be bound to earth, James, as it were. So, I know that was a stretch at this point. So Earthbound, guys. If you have not played this game, a little bit of an introduction on it. So it was a Japanese RPG that was released in Japan as Mother 2, and I'm gonna butcher this last. You wanna tell me that Gigu no
Probably Gigu no Yakusho, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Dude,
we're bad at Japanese.
Well, I'm bad at other languages in general. That I'm almost bad at English. I'll be honest with you. So pretty bad at English. So, anyways, it was developed by Ape Inc. and HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo for the the SNES series, essentially. So, the second entry in the Mother series was first released in Japan in August of '94. That's 1994 for you kids out there, and in North America in June of 1995. Basically, you play as Ness and his party of Paula, Jeff, and Pooh. That's right, Pooh.
His name is literally Pooh, yes.
That's right. You can name them whatever you want, but they call them Pooh. Mm-hmm. The player travels the world to collect melodies from the 8 sanctuaries in order to defeat the universal cosmic destroyer, Gygas. Which, is that kind of a riff off Gary Gygas?
I wonder if it might be a Gygax reference. Yeah.
Gygax? Yeah, that's what I kind of thought too.
Gygax, something like that. It wouldn't surprise me at all with this game.
Yeah, that really doesn't surprise me. So, just doing a little bit.
The game had a really long development period especially for a Super NES game. It was like 5 years of development hell.
So thinking about that though, and having now played the game, I replayed it a little bit. I did about 4 hours this last time, but having played it all the way through a long time ago, this was I easily dumped like 16 hours into this game. That is very long for for a Super Nintendo era like RPG, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and because you can think about it, most RPGs like used to play like Final Fantasy 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever it was for the NES or the SNES, you might only put in like 5-6 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 even tops.
Well, and just packing in that much content into a Super NES cartridge is impressive because something the kids might not realize is that if you ever download a Super NES ROM, you'll know that these things are only a megabyte or two.
Yeah, no.
That is all the space they have for the entire game, including the graphics and the text.
Yep.
And then the actual programming itself. I mean, you can't load a web page for that these days.
You could. It just it would be literally like a box of text and that's it. No pretty. It's like just pure HTML.
Most GameFAQs articles, which are pure text, are more than a megabyte or two.
It's true. That's why you got to compress that file, James. You got to make it tiny. So, obviously, like we said, this game was kind of in development for a while because this was a passion project of the writer and director Shigi Sato, and its lead programmer Satoru Iwata. I hope that, I swear to God, I apologize to the creators of this because like we said, I will butcher every name that isn't either German or English at this point in my life. So
Satoru Iwata.
Yeah, I really hope that we get a German game developer sometime. I'll be like Hans Weidenbach.
We could try and find a German game for next month. I bet I could find one.
Oh, dude, it would sound so bad. It's going to sound so bad no matter what. I don't even think. We'll try either way. But anyways, it was a passion project of these guys, and as well as their composers, Suzuki.
Which props to the composers because the game and the music in this game really is amazing, especially for an SNES game.
It's so varied, right? It's so varied.
And actually, just the use of sound in general on this game,
or the absence of sound at some point.
Yeah, it's like whenever you're walking, it's just like in the opening sequence.
Yep.
Like you find Buzz, and he spins around your head and he's buzzing, and the whole time he's around, you hear the buzzing sound. Like when the phone rings, you don't just get like a ring ring text box. You hear ringing sounds. There's like contextual footsteps and like there's a very modern sound design for such an old game. It's pretty impressive.
Well, and the fact that a lot of times in like a lot of the SNES musical scores have, it's very much for like ding 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 ding. But they, like you said, they literally take popular songs. Like there's even one at the very beginning there when you fight the was it the Sharks bad guy?
The Sharks.
They literally do Johnny Be Good is his theme song, but they don't call it that because obviously licensing stuff.
Which forget that first shark boss, by the way. Like he is ridiculously strong
for no apparent reason whatsoever. You can, I mean,
it's like he is very punishing. And then it's like, oh, okay. So I look it up online. I'm like, oh, I must be doing something wrong since he's just murdering me repeatedly.
Nope.
And they're like, oh no, the right thing to do is just to grind up to level 8. Which at this point you're like level 4. So it's like, oh, would you like to spend 45 minutes grinding up
pretty much
3 levels? Because then you get a spell that can instantly kill them. Yep. And it's like, that's the only way to beat this. And I'm like, okay.
Guess I'm doing that now.
This feels like a Super NES RPG all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, very much so. And that's kind of going off of what they made the game feel like, because from what I gathered, because I never played Mother 1, from what I gathered is this had a bit of a tonal shift from the first game, right?
Yes.
And so they really went in toward that idiosyncratic like portrayal of America and Western culture is what they were really shooting for. And they from what I'm reading from these notes that we had here, they really wanted to subvert the popular role-playing game traditions by featuring modern settings while parodying numerous staples of this genre, which is you get that all over the place here. Like it's phenomenal. Like you could literally be walking around and you're like, my favorite thing in this whole game, and which is why it took me so long to beat it in the first place, was I like to go around and talk to people.
Yeah.
Because
they all have something interesting
no matter what. And I'm just like, where do you guys, like, how do you come up, like, you put so much time into this, and a lot of times it's just utter nonsense. It's a lot of times. Like there's this one building I remember clicking on because like you can't go in a lot of buildings, and it's literally they just go, shh, be quiet, whisper, 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 shh, he, don't say that. And I'm just like, who does that? Who does that shit? It's great.
Or in the opening sequence, you get this character Buzz, who is a bee from the future who's like a previous hero.
Yes.
And of course he's with you for all of 5 minutes. He instantly he saves your life, and then he gets killed.
Yep.
He gives like this long backstory reveal, and then he's like, gasp, I'm dying. He's like, wait, would you like me to tell this to you again even though I'm almost dead?
Yes.
Or,
I love that stuff.
Or like, you need to get the key to a shed from the mayor to get to the first dungeon.
Yep.
And he makes you clean up the shark gang first, which you do.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, wait, this would be good for my popularity, but you're just a kid. I'm not going to be liable for this, am I?
That's right.
And you have to answer no before he'll give you the key.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Oh, dude, the whole game, it's chock full of that satirical stuff. And it does get a little more serious towards the end. But and there are a couple like serious notes, but like the vast majority of it is just bizarre, bonkers, and hilarious all thrown in together. So, but the reason they did this though, a lot of it was they really wanted to reach a lot of the non-gamer people, which plenty of people at this point were starting that weren't like, for lack of a better word, nerds or geeks were playing SNES. They're like, I don't think they had sports games and things on there too. So they were starting to they wanted to reach out to people like that because, they're just trying to increase their player base at that point. So that's why they intentionally had this really goofy kind of dumb tone. Like the other thing that pops up in my brain is there's a dog in one of the convenience stores. I don't know if you recall this.
Yeah.
You talk to the dog and he legitimately says, I'm being possessed by the creator of the game. Would you like to know some information about the game? And he tells you how to do stuff like that, and you're like teaches you how to go through menus. And I'm just like, these assholes are on a whole other level of just like, we're just here to mess with you. I love it to death. So,
whenever the save mechanic for the game is also super goofy. Like you have to find a payphone and call your dad.
Yep.
And your dad always starts by saying, "Hey, what have you named yourself? I deposited some money in your bank account for you.
Yeah.
Like, you never see the guy the entire game, but he always is putting money into your bank account, presumably to assuage his guilt, I guess.
I'm assuming, because if you never see him, I'm guessing that's what exactly
And
what
then
happens.
he'll offer to record your adventure for you. And then he'll ask you if you want to keep playing or not. And if you say you want to keep playing, he'll say, you work too hard just like your mom.
That's
every single time.
Very much so. So let's just dig a little bit more into the story a little bit. So have you ever played it all the way through, James?
I did not get all the way through. I played through the first dungeon, the Bigfoot dungeon.
Is this on?
I played it on
Switch?
the Switch. It's on the SNES
online
Switch app.
Online thing. Okay, so you can grab it on there, guys, if you want to, or you could be a grifter like me. So that is definitely where I would go to. But yeah, like I said, this is a fairly long game. And there's like you were saying, there are several sanctuaries you have to go through. And the thing is, every area has its own unique baddies. I don't want to ruin too much of the game for everybody, so we're kind of mainly staying within that first dungeon, lack of a better word, dungeon area, where you have to get to the first step of your journey, as it were.
Yes, the giant's footprint, which is the first step. Yeah,
and I'm just like, sweet Jesus.
This entire game is like a lampshade of the RPG genre.
Yes,
which is amazing for someone who played a lot of these old RPGs. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah,
it's also kind of weird that they're trying to reach a wider audience with this too, since this is clearly a love letter to old school RPGs, and so it's like.
it is great, but at the same time, like you said, I very much agree with you on that. Is they kind of, I think they missed the mark a little bit on it whenever they were trying to market it here in the U.S. And I think if they had done a little bit better job or had a little bit more better backing on that end, I think it would have been almost immediately a smash hit. But it took a little while, like a lot of really great things. It took a lot of while to gain hold.
Well, I think it's just too, because a lot of these old RPGs that this thing is lampshading didn't really hit in the West the same way they did in Japan.
No.
Like what we call Final Fantasy 1 in the US was like 3 or 4 in Japan.
Yeah.
Like Song of Mana and stuff like that, like we didn't get until much later.
Oh, yeah.
Like some of these games got revamped onto the SNES, but like at the time when this was hitting, I mean, there were some hardcore NES gamers out there, but I feel like at least for us when we were kids, the Super NES is when video games went wide in the US.
Very much so. They like you said, it took a while to things. Well, that's when Nintendo really started to have a foothold in the US. They just started really pushing.
Because there was Atari and there was NES, but like those are much more limited systems.
Yeah, like the Famicom and all that stuff.
They just don't have the space and the memory to run something like an RPG.
No, they really didn't. They had a few, like the original Final Fantasies with the NES, but like Nintendo of America didn't really cement itself. They didn't have Nintendo of America until around the time that the NES started coming out. The SNES came out towards the end of the life cycle of the NES. Like they would ship all the old things over, all the old systems over, and they just did stuff like that. And it started out of Seattle. I think it's where they.
Well, if you're pulled up these old NES ROMs, like there's thousands of NES games. It used to be very cheap to get an NES license and very easy to publish. And most of these games just were not localized. They came out for whatever tie-in they came out for.
Yep.
And they didn't really get international releases.
No, they didn't at all. And it's
we got the ET game, but we didn't get the original Final Fantasy.
Don't start with me about that. I don't want to talk about the ET game. Fucking trash. But obviously this had a little bit more love and care in it. After they kind of started curating their titles a little bit more. They definitely still had some stinkers in there, but this is definitely one that stands out. So, and part of the reason it stands out is because the story obviously was just, it's so much deeper. And obviously, like I said, we go through all this and they have this big titular, they have all these goofy things that go on in this game, but at the same time, they also have this really big thing at the very end where you have to fight the big bad, where you find out or partway through the game, you find out one of the people in your party betrays you.
Yes.
And he's side like, oh my God, James, you're fighting with Gygas. Why would you do such a thing?
Oh no!
I know, and then I have to fight my buddy.
Another RPG classic.
That's right. But then luckily you get redeemed, James, and you're going to help me. You're going to help me fight Gygas, and we find out
you win through the power of prayer and emotions, which is also an RPG classic. Like
it's like I said, they do all this really fun stuff, but the thing is, they do have a level of challenge in here that makes it fun enough where it's not like it's just like a dumb, goofy game. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, High on Life was just it was an excuse to have for Justin Roiland to put his little quips in there and stuff. I'm like, this is I literally.
High on Life was fun, but it got tired about 2/3 of the way through. Like, it was
shitting me. I was about halfway through, and I was like, I'm done with this bullshit. So you're a better man than I was.
The game was a little longer than it needed to be.
100%, and a lot of games that do stuff like that really kind of get tired after a while. This game, I never really felt that, right? I definitely felt some grindy moments in there. Like, okay, I have to get to a level, whatnot. This is going to take a little bit. But at the same time, though, I was like, okay, what's the next joke that's going to come up here? What's the next kind of weird thing they're going to try and do? Are they going to make me go through another psychedelic phase where the whole world just kind of randomly shifts for no apparent reason?
Screw the mushroom people. That's all I got to say.
Yes, very much so.
This is like in the transition between the first and the second area. You will get tagged by this mushroom guy, and it screws up your controls, and you have to just play that way for like 10 minutes until you can make your way to a hospital.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can do about it. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Oh, that's why it's so fun, though, James. So we don't want to spoil the whole story for you, but like I said, it's very much fun, and I would highly recommend you guys going out and at least enjoying the game, even if you guys aren't like really into RPG games. Maybe you just watch somebody do a playthrough of it. It's really fun to watch somebody play this. So, obviously, though, the development for this, like we were saying earlier, was much longer than your average.
It's like 5 years is a typical development cycle now. But most NES games were
for like an independent game.
Yeah.
5 years for an independent. You're talking about like nowadays, even some like Halo Infinite that they came out with. That was in development cycle for almost 10 years.
Yeah, which was ridiculous. It did not need that much time.
No, it did not. But they were trying to do a lot more than they should have in the first place. But anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, most games in these days were usually 6 months or less, and a really big title might be 2 years. But
yeah, well, here's a good example. Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars. That was at the end of the SNES cycle. By the time that came out, that was in development for roughly 8 months, a year. So that was a
long development cycle, and that was with two different companies having their fingers in the pot, which makes it more complicated.
And that was the biggest reason for that, even so. And this one, the fact that it took 5 years, it was kind of insane to kind of see that. But it was nice though to let them do that. So, obviously. Mother 2 was made by a development team that was different from the original game, and most of its members were unmarried and willing to work all night on the project. Mother 2, on the other hand, Mother 2 was different. The original game was created by these guys that were all single dudes, like most of us, James.
Yeah.
If we're single and we don't have families, sure, I'm willing to dump like 80 hours a week into my job.
And of course, yeah. And you add on Japan's toxic work culture.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Don't get me started on that. But
one of the few things you can say that America's not the worst in the world.
No, yeah. But did you see that? This is a random side note. South Korea was trying to increase their work week to 64 hours. Yeah. Oh, dude, there was major backlash over it.
I'm sure people were very upset about that.
Yeah. I'm like, what's your normal work week now? Like, ours is 40.
Yeah.
Like sweet Jesus. I probably unofficially, officially it's 40, but I'm sure I probably put in 45, 46 hours a week probably.
Yeah.
That's pretty normal. I'm sure you roughly probably do a little bit more.
I average out to 40. I do 80 one week and then 0 the next. So.
That's right. As I said, yeah. And there's some days you probably go in for a little extra here and there, but it's never crazy. But needless to say, Mother 2, a lot of these guys had gone to the point of where they, got married and it got to the point where the development took a lot longer to make, right? And so it was much longer, much more planning, and so they kind of got under like multiple threats of being canceled. But luckily, Iwata said that the project dire straits were resolved when he joined the team, and its programming team had more members than HAL on the project. So HAL, which was the team that was led by Iwata, worked on the game program, while the Ape team worked on specific data such like text and maps. So they did a little bit more. They divided and conquered, which let's be honest with you, that's usually the best thing to do in a lot of these situations, especially with like programming projects, is divide and conquer. And so, and they were evil. Wow, if I could spot, not evil, they were able to. God, words to Jay James. They were able to meet each other on a regular basis and kind of, figure out things, because you got to remember, guys, this was the '90s, and they still talked over the phone. That was, maybe some faxing if you got lucky. There was not this cool little stuff that they had back in the day. But they obviously, like, they found out, that they kind of had some snags on the storyline from what I've gathered here. They knew that they wanted Gygas to come back and appear as the antagonist.
It was originally conceived as a sequel, and it ended up not being much of a sequel.
Yeah, not really.
Which is why when it came out in the US, they just gave it a new name and didn't even let people know it was a sequel.
Yeah, they were just kind of like, whatever, this is...
Like, they reused the boss, but that's about it. It's like a Final Fantasy sequel. It's a whole new cast.
100%, that's the way it was. But obviously, like we're saying, they wanted to, during the development, they wanted to make this a little bit more goofy as opposed to the last series, one of the series, which was a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more straightforward RPG. So they wanted to kind of turn things on their head. I think this was kind of that, this is our sophomore outing. We're going to do something, we did make something we loved the first time, but now we're not going to hold anything back. We're really going to make something we love. We know those game designers and those musicians do that kind of stuff. So
they apparently went through a whole bunch of iterations of different RPG styles. Like, they wanted to have a pachinko ball HP counter, and then they wanted an odometer HP counter, and they ended up going with classic early Final Fantasy style text.
Yeah,
and so they went through a lot of game systems.
It still takes down though. It'll take down. It looks really cool.
It looks cool. It's like an odometer. It clicks down.
But I really enjoyed that. So, so they did some different things. Like they used they tried the different unusual map layouts on the diagonal streaks, and oblique projection, which would require extra attention from the artist. They specifically chose this. Having an overworld map, and then want to artificially distinguish between towns and other areas instead. He wanted to work to make each town unique, which is what they do. They give you a different map for each town or each wherever you're at. So it's really interesting that they focus on that as opposed to what Final Fantasy does, and gives you this giant mega map, right?
Well, and it's interesting because it is very much not a grid.
No.
Which is a weird thing to say now, but the game includes a lot of diagonal angles, and it includes a lot of buildings that are not clustered into neat square shapes, even though it's the towns feel like towns. They're not...
They feel like American towns.
Yeah. It's not... Well, it's not...
does not feel like a Japanese town at all.
No, but it's not like a lot of the times you get into these old school RPGs and the towns are laid out in perfect grids because that's how they design the maps. The maps are just really a series of squares.
James,
and they're
Pewter City... is not a perfect square. None of the Pokemon towns are ever perfect.
This is why Pallet Town is perfect. It's a perfect square. There's 4 buildings. It's a perfect town.
It's funny when you say that.
You don't need to leave Pallet Town. You should stay at home with Pallet Town and work at the deli.
Why go and collect them all, James? Just stay at home. I could be the best there ever was at folding laundry and living a normal life.
Which, shout out to Pokemon Rusty. It's a hilarious web series.
It is good. It is. I do love those. That's another really good series. Is that off of College Humor?
It might have been College Humor.
I can't remember.
One of those old ones. Yeah.
Dude, that's a great series. Hours and hours.
Pokemon Rusty is great.
Yeah, check it out, kids. I made a reference about shoes the other day. I was like, shiz, and nobody in my work laughed at me because I guess I'm just an old fart now.
I made a Futurama reference at work.
Yeah.
I said we should have a party with blackjack and hookers. Forget the blackjack. And everyone looked at me like I grew a second head, and they're like, James, I thought better of you than that. And I'm like, when did Futurama become obscure? Like, I don't... I felt really old there, and I'm one of the younger people in the room. And
I love that. That's phenomenal. Yeah.
I'm going to have to stop making that reference now. At least I can still do South Park references.
No, you can make that reference because I think it's funny. It's all that matters. Oh, Bender's one of my favorite guys ever, so... But obviously the game, they really worked hard to try to make this game as best they could, which they like we were saying earlier, they did have to cut a few things to make it fit within that 8 megabit limit, but luckily they were able to expand its scope to and to make it up to 24 megabits actually, which was really interesting because a lot of times Nintendo didn't really give you a lot of wiggle room on what they were going to put on their cartridges.
Well, and they ended up finally they were expanded to a 24 megabit limit, but they ended up shipping on 12.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the 24 megabytes is gigantic. I can't.
I know.
I'm trying to think of any SNES cartridge that was more than 10 or 11.
Some of them, if they,
I know Super Mario RPG was close to 10.
So a lot of them,
that was gigantic.
I'm just trying to remember. No,
I mean, that was a lot of storage in that day. That'd be an expensive cartridge.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is like the reason they would do that. The only way they could even do that is if they had like an extension pack on it, like they did with the 64. You remember those?
Yeah, I was like, well, I mean the cartridges are sold for a fixed price, right?
Yeah.
Every game came out for the same price, and so when they increase the amount of memory in the cartridge, they're losing money.
Yes.
So they were not fans of doing that.
I mean, that's just the whole business, right? So, but like we said, the game eventually came out in Japan in 94, I believe. Yes, yeah. And then eventually came out a year later in the America. One very strange thing they did do in this,
the piracy thing,
they which wasn't very big at the time, was the anti-piracy measures that when triggered, increased enemies counts to make the game less enjoyable. Additionally, right before players reach the end of the pirated game or copy story, the game resets and deletes its save file in an act that IGN declared was arguably the most devious and notorious example of creative copy protection. Which, to be fair,
that is hysterical.
That is something that these guys would do, right? That's what I would think that they would do.
Which I'm just thinking, like, who was? I mean, there was definitely people pirating games in the mid '90s.
Oh,
I'm just thinking, like, but yeah, that's hilarious, though. Yeah.
But you would do this would happen all the time, dude. Because I'm sure. So that's the thing.
I'm just thinking, yeah, we were playing SNES ROMs in the mid '90s.
Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, they would do this all the time. So if you think about this, though, they definitely did this. Apparently, I actually read up a little bit on this. Japan has a huge back in the day had a huge pirated game market that was actually run by the Yakuza, actually. So they actually made a lot of money on it, James. So just keep that in mind. So that was just really...
So what are some downsides for the game? I would say for me, the biggest drag on the game is the text-based like damage reporting system where like if you're in multi-combat, like where there's multiple enemies on the screen and multiple characters, and say you cast a spell that damages everybody, it's going to individually report how much damage each person on the screen took, and it takes forever. And the same is true when you cast a buff on your own team and everything else.
So let me
that was the worst part of the game for me.
Let me ask you this: Do you think they would have done better to just have it set up like a Final Fantasy game where you have kind of the bars,
or just kind of like or where it like pops up onto the screen for each character, you can just see it.
Yeah,
because the text based combat reporting of everything that happens was the worst part.
Yes, I will agree with that.
It makes it drag in a bad way.
Yeah, and I think
that was the unpleasant sort of dating for the game.
That is where, like I said, that's why I only got about 4 hours into it, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. It definitely like everything. you put it up on a pedestal and you play it for the first time and you're like, oh, this is an amazing game. And then you take it back down a few years later and you're just like, this is kind of dirty and filthy and I'm going to clean it off and I'm going to play it. And I look at it a little bit more and I'm like, I start to see the cracks in it a little bit more.
The story is fun. The kookiness is fun. I think it's still worth a play.
It's definitely still worth a play. Yeah, 100% so. But
yeah,
like you said, it's definitely got a lot of like cracks that start to show.
It's like if you boot up the old Pokemon Red and Blue on an original Game Boy and try to play it without like hardware acceleration or anything. It just kind of shows how slow these games were designed to be played.
And it also shows how short our attention span is now.
No, I haven't changed at all. That's not it.
I am firm. I am a rock. I'm an island. I never change.
I'm not an increasingly jaded man chasing a childlike high for something that'll never come back again.
We will never do that, James. What are you talking about? As I stare at the toys and
I still stay up till 3 a.m. evolving Eevees. Why wouldn't I?
Oh my god! We're man children podcasting in our basement, James. Oh wow.
Okay, they got too real.
Yeah, too real. Hey, bright side, it's not my mom's basement. I own this house.
That's
James.
true. It is your basement. You're a grown-ass man.
I'm a grown-ass man doing this in my basement.
You're doing what you want in your own basement.
That's right. You can't do it too. David, it's time to do the dishes. Not yet, Jackie. I want to stay up.
You would do this.
I would do the dishes probably. Yeah. Let's be honest with yourself. So obviously,
anyway, sales.
Wow, that was a random tangent down there. So obviously, the sales and reception of this game, like we said, had a mixed bag once it came to America. But Japan actually sold fairly well. So Mother 2 sold around 500,000 copies. It was the 10th best-selling game of '94, which was kind of unheard of. But once it got to America in '95, about a year later, it showed a significant decrease on the games, which was about 150 roughly thousand.
Yeah.
Which that's a huge drop. Usually you don't have that much of a drop, but even during this time frame, it was usually you probably sold between half and like 2/3 the amount in the American market.
Unless it was one of the really big ones like Yoshi's Island that they pushed hard.
And then you would usually see something
comparable. But for a game with a $2 million marketing campaign, which was a lot at the time.
It was unheard of.
And a 5-year development cycle.
The return investment was not
what they were hoping for.
Yeah, but the thing was, though, a lot of critics that reviewed the game and played the game, they loved it. Like, they spouted, like, oh, the marketing on this is hilarious. The gameplay is phenomenal, but I just didn't get any traction.
I think it became a cult classic.
Oh, yeah, years later.
Until he became a character in Super Smash Brothers.
Yes. And
now everyone kind of went back and played it.
100%. So here's that's where we're going to talk about that a little bit. So they classified it as a lot of like mainstream marketing people, which at the time Kotaku they called it a dud and low sales and bizarre.
But compared to Final Fantasy IV, Chrono Trigger, and Super Mario RPG, those were the things that were big.
Yes, very much so
on the American market as far as RPGs go.
So after a little while, though, you look at kind of see what after it was localized coming to the U.S. They say it was almost where was it at? I put it in here. Then this team I'm trying to remember where I put this at, James, about where it eventually kind of started to pick up. But so yeah, that's where it is. So eventually they like you said, it kind of saw a resurgence once it got into NES being put into Super Smash Bros., which came out on the 64. So you're talking about almost the Smash Bros. Didn't come out, wasn't a release title for the 64. It was about halfway through the cycle, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, it wasn't a release title, and this was also at the time when the SNES cartridges, you could buy them on the used market.
Yeah,
but nothing digital was out yet, and so most people were pirating the game to play it at this point. Unless you could find it at a used game store or on Amazon, it just wasn't out there.
Yeah, well, it's because they didn't send
these big online marketplaces didn't exist yet. Digital copies didn't exist yet.
Yep.
And that was the only way to get to a lot of these games.
And eventually, what they have is you get these. That's kind of where you get this kind of cult followings from the pirated market, right?
Yeah.
People start to kind of notice this, and you start to notice that whenever they finally get the translation going for some of the pirated stuff, which one of the main guys, I'm trying to remember what his name was. I put his name in here.
Nico Lindblom. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually reached out to one of the writers of the story or the game.
Mm-hmm.
And started to look at a little bit more of the translation for the game.
Yeah.
And so for the American market, for his essentially pirated version, and he helped him with the translation on it. So, which I thought that was really interesting on that end. So they started to, push us out, and he didn't sell it though. He gave it away he was giving it away for free on a localized thing. So from what I gathered, and I think that's what really kind of started to get this tap into this cult following, and people started to really get into it. And then the 64 Smash Bros hit, and that's when you kind of get this resurgence of like, who the frick is this kid? Yeah. And you find out, Earthbound is this amazing game on the SNES that came out forever ago, and people had no idea what it was because they were just like, this is a weird freaking game with a weird marketing campaign.
Well, and like a lot of the games we've talked about from this era, the weirdness is part of what makes it still memorable after time.
Oh, yeah. It's not like I sat down the other day.
Like we said before, it's better to have a really distinctive style if you want to be remembered forever, even if you're not going to be a big seller when it first comes out.
I know. So, prime example of this was I sat down the other day because whenever we were trying to figure out what RPGs we wanted to do, or old school RPGs we wanted to do for this trilogy here, I was thinking to myself, what do we want to play and watch? I just thought about the Final Fantasy games. That's RPGs. That is RPGs. That is what you think about when you see RPGs. And I started to play 3 a little bit, and I was just like.
Well, it's like in Final Fantasy IV is like an 80-hour slog.
Yes.
And that's not a completionist 80 hours. That's a finish the game 80 hours.
Yes, and that's why I said. And
at least Earthbound does not have random encounters. Like the enemies are on the map.
Yes.
You can attack them or dodge them, but they are there.
Yes.
Which random encounter RPGs are the bane of my life these days.
100%.
I do not like them.
Well, like you said, it's just, and then on top of that, it's just they weren't. Some of those early ones, early Final Fantasy games, they're just not memorable. Like they all kind of they kind of get washed together. Well, it's like, Final Fantasy, 7 really stands out because it flipped over and it didn't make it just like this medieval setting anymore.
Yeah,
they made it different, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that's what I'm saying is like you said earlier. It's if you may want to make something memorable, you make the setting unique, you make the story unique, you make the interactions unique. The gameplay can kind of be somewhat generic, which is fine. You can do something a little bit maybe outside the box. But the vast majority of games, like we were saying, that really stand out and people really love, it's the story that pulls them in, right? And the funness. You get this with all kinds of things. You get like The Last of Us, Uncharted, the Zelda, Breath of the Wild. I mean, they did some unique things there, but vast majority of that gameplay stuff had already been done in some of the other Zelda games. They just took it all and they're like, we're going to put it all in one neat little package and make it a little bit different,
Well, and Breath of the Wild's uniqueness is wearing off now, too. And so I'm honestly wondering how well the sequel is going to carry, because like when Breath of the Wild came out, this really expansive game with highly detailed, gigantic maps.
Yeah.
And what set Breath of the Wild apart and still does is just how every area of the map is different and every little challenge is different. And for me, that's what makes Breath of the Wild an amazing classic in the way that Harry Potter Legacy probably won't be.
No.
Is when you start going through Harry Potter Legacy, like a lot of the stuff is frankly copy-pasted stuff. Like it's a big map, but there's not nearly as much there as it seems like.
The only thing that makes that stand out, though, is it's one of the most unique Harry Potter games.
It's Harry Potter, and the castle is amazing.
Yes,
they really knocked it out of the park with the Hogwarts
and if you
castle.
Look at some of the older Harry Potter games, it's nothing like any of the other Harry Potter games,
which were hot garbage.
But open world adventure games, like compared to those, it's nothing really new.
Yeah,
right?
And so other game developers have been trying to capture the Breath of the Wild bottle of lightning. with stuff like Wings of Icarus and stuff like that, and where they always struggle is
just
the need to copy and paste content to fill out these big maps.
Yeah, and you can't. Sometimes it's almost better to downsize the map and just.
I'd rather have a short, memorable experience than something gigantic and bloated.
100%.
It's like, because I'm at the age now where I'm not going to put 70 hours into a game unless I genuinely love it.
Yeah.
And it's becoming rarer for me to find something that captures my attention that way. I'd rather have something that's 10 or 12 hours that's a lot of fun.
Yes. So, I guess in conclusion, James, how many Pogo Men out of 10 would you give this?
I'd give it a 6 now. It's okay. I will probably come back and finish it just for the kookiness and the story and everything. Yeah. As an RPG, it definitely falls pretty flat compared to modern stuff. Like the gameplay is not great by modern standards, especially with how slow it runs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the kookiness, the stories, and even some of the character stuff is pretty fun, though.
I will agree with you on that. I will give it a slightly higher score, though. I will give it about a 7, maybe a 6.75, maybe going down there. I'll get a 6.75. So there's a 3/4 of a Pogo Man standing there by himself, headless probably. But kind of the same reasons as you were saying, but the story just really makes it stand out. The character interactions, the sheer amount of stuff that was shoved into this game makes it fun. I mean, like dialogue-wise, it's just so random and kooky, like you said.
Well, and it's a love letter to 1990s Americana, which that was my childhood.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. It kind of sits me back into that time frame of, being able to just run around outside, make water slides from our swing sets, slide and make a mud puddle, and my dad will come home and scream at us later. Hypothetically, it never would have happened.
No, we never did that.
We never did that at all. That's what I love about it too, because like you said, it just really kind of evokes that nostalgia for me. But like you said, though, the RPG elements definitely way heavy comparatively to some of the other stuff now that we can play with now. So
this was like kind of the pre-Star Ocean revolution for RPGs, where they became more real time.
Yes,
and it's punishingly slow by modern standards.
Very much so. So, well, I think we've about beaten that horse to death, or at least beaten that. Have we beaten Pooh to death, James?
Yeah, we beat Pooh to death.
That's right, we beat.
But really, Porky is the one who deserves to be beaten to death.
Well, right? I don't really like Porky either, so it is what it is. So, all right, guys. Well, I just want to say thanks for coming in and listening to us. We are going to continue this series with next month with one final RPG. I hope you guys pop over and check it out. Make sure you check out some of our previous episodes. And we will see you on later on this month with our watch along, which we're going to be doing a DC title here pretty soon. James is finally withered. Well, you basically just thrown down and said, "Fine, we'll watch something other than anime." So, I know James says never again. So.
I mean, a DC animated series title—that's basically anime.
Oh, you just wait till you see, James.
We got something better.
Wait till you see. It.
Okay.
It will never be anime. I'll tell you that now. So.
No.
All right, guys. Thanks for stopping in. We will see you next time. Later, guys.
If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.